Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Extra Serving, a Nation's Restaurant News podcast. I'm your host, Holly Petre. This week on the pod, we're going to be talking about teens, something Sam is going to have to contend with soon. The latest Piper Sandler survey was released earlier this week. The results from the survey let brands know what's resonating with teens. The average age for the survey was about 15 years old, so it's a good demographic. These Gen Zs and Alphas are leaning on different brands than in the past, with Raising Cane's jumping into the top 5 for the first time, overtaking stalwarts like Chipotle and Taco Bell. So what can we learn from these teens? Next, we'll be talking about dayparts. 3 years ago, everyone was lamenting about the fact that breakfast is now 10 a.m. and not 8 a.m. like it was for so many years. Breakfast sales suffered. They've mostly evened out, but the breakfast times have stuck along with earlier dinner times. Are consumers ever returning to old habits? This week's interview is Clay Dover, CEO of the emerging chain Velvet Taco. I'm now time to introduce my co-hosts.
I'm Sam Oches, editor-in-chief of Nation's Restaurant News, and I'm a full 6 years away from having a teenager. So just FYI.
It'll take you 6 years to prepare.
Yeah, that's right.
A little closer than you were a week ago.
It's a good point.
Just getting older.
I'm
Leigh Zinsmeister. I'm the managing editor of Nation's Restaurant News.
Sam, we're prepping you for teens before you even get there. We're trying to get you ready for a girl teenager.
Oh, God help me.
Look, I mean, not to spoil anything, but based on the data that we're looking at, I think he's already well prepared because my understanding is that he spends most of his time at Chick-fil-A.
Well, now you understand why all the teens love Chick-fil-A, because families are going to Chick-fil-A. It's just a match made in heaven.
Well, we were talking with somebody. I went out for dinner last night, and somebody at the bar knows what I do for a living. And so they were like, they're allegedly building a Chick-fil-A where my parents live. And someone was like, how are they even getting the permits for that? There's no way that a drive-through can ever work there because it's so crowded already. And so we were talking about the permitting situation, and that's a big problem that Chick-fil-A has, is their drive-thrus, even though they're fast, they're long. And I'm surprised that teens are willing to wait for that.
Yeah, I mean, I went to a Chick-fil-A on Saturday, no surprise, and I went at 10 a.m., also relevant to our conversation today. However, I was picking up a catering order, so this was for my daughter's birthday party. We got a platter of chicken minis for her and all her little girlfriends. And 10 a.m., at least 20 cars in the drive-thru. I mean, it's really bananas. Now, to answer your specific question about teenagers and going there when it's so busy, I mean, it's got to be digital adoption, right? I mean, Chick-fil-A is on the ball with digital innovation. They've always been, maybe not the leader in innovation for mobile ordering, digital ordering, but they've always been right there. They've been keeping up with it. And it is very easy, despite Chick-fil-A's busyness and longer wait times, the digital component always makes it feel like a good experience. And one thing I'll throw out there too, I walked in to order or to pick up the food we had ordered a few days before, and it wasn't ready because I was a little early. And one of the employees got lemonade for me and for Jude, my son, who was there with me, and just free. He's like, "You want a lemonade while you wait?" I'm like, "Yeah." And that is classic Chick-fil-A. It's a hospitality, right? And this is a little bit me wandering with my point, but I think ultimately the point is that when you have a great experience and it's convenient, teenagers and everybody else will overlook the long wait times because you still get a great experience.
Well, and in another way that all of our stories today are overlapping, we just came out with our off-premises report, where we use Technomic data to rank restaurant brands based on how good they are at different off-premises channels. And Chick-fil-A is the third best at drive-through out of all quick service brands. And that's ranked on a lot of things, but one of them is speed of visit. So, the lines are long, but then you get your food right away. It's still overall a great experience, and this is according to consumers.
Yeah, and that's consumer sentiment, right? So what's important about that is they measure the Technomic has collected consumer sentiment on a number of metrics, including speed of service, order accuracy, and all these things. But it all boils down to really how did it make you feel, and that is at the end of the day the most important factor, because no matter how long your wait was, how much money you paid, no matter any of those things, if you had a good experience, you're liable to return, right? So the consumer sentiment is so important. And Chick-fil-A is just always very good at creating a good experience and making customers feel good when they leave.
Well, and that's what's interesting to me about Raising Cane's on the list is their digital experience is not nearly as good as Chick-fil-A's, but they have this almost cult-like status among people. Like they are known for being good hosts. They're known for having good food. They're known for the fact that you can get your food so quickly from there, but it's a higher quality than other QSRs. So I think that that's an interesting thing to point out is that, we talk about all this consumer sentiment towards digital and drive-through, and Raising Cane's is just simply giving you chicken, toast, and French fries and some coleslaw. But I think it's simple.
And not to really lean into how average my life is, but the same day I got my chicken mini platter for my daughter's birthday party, we went to a birthday party for my son's friend, and Raising Cane's catered that one. Welcome Middle America. This is what we do, guys. You know what? You guys will never know this. You New Yorkers, and you have all your fancy your eating options. That's my New York accent, by the way.
It was terrible.
Yeah, well, I'm not practicing a lot. But Chick-fil-A catered my party. Raising Cane's catered the other party. But I mean, Raising Cane's, you're right. It's a fairly simple menu with another restaurant that provides a really good experience on the whole. Again, hospitality. I think Raising Cane's probably more so than Chick-fil-A is a convenience option, because I think their drive-thrus, you don't wait as long in the drive-thru. Their menu is smaller than Chick-fil-A's, so Raising Cane's is a bit more like, I want chicken fingers now, and Raising Cane's is there for you. Chick-fil-A is a little bit more like, Chick-fil-A is like, I need to feed my family, and Chick-fil-A has options, and chicken is what they have. So anyway, but Raising Cane's also, much like Chick-fil-A, is very good at just positioning itself as a youthful, positive place for young people. And one example of how Raising Cane's has done that lately is its relationship with Post Malone, right? So if you tap into the personalities that resonate with teenagers, like Raising Cane's has done with Post Malone. And as we speak, our colleague Ron Ruggles is going to meet, I think, Post Malone, maybe, hopefully, at his new Dallas restaurant, which is very cool. Lucky for Ron. Spider-Man connection there too. We won't get too deep into it, but anyway, but Post Malone resonates with teenagers. Teenagers like that kind of stuff. It's the same thing with a Taco Bell is that, you're creating brand affinity. Teenagers, young people respond to that.
Well, but you say that brand affinity and the celebrity aspect. So McDonald's entered the list again at number 3 for the first time in a while. And, they've done their huge celebrity partnerships. They're doing the meals with them, and their marketing has been doing a great job. But then you see brands like Taco Bell and Chipotle who are working with TikTok creators, who are working with all these things that you think would resonate with younger people. They're not on the list anymore. They've fallen off. And so I think celebrity works in some cases for some brands, but it doesn't for others. But Alicia and I were talking for First Bite that a lot of these brands are chicken brands. So it almost seems like that's the direction that younger consumers are going, is towards chicken versus eating beef as much. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah. And I don't know. I'm not sure what the chicken connection is, other than, again, convenience. Because if I'm hankering for some sort of indulgent food, in my head, a burger is more of a meal. A burrito from Chipotle is more of a meal. Chicken fingers are my I'm just gonna snack on something tasty, indulgent. So maybe there's something to that. Again, that's me just projecting on my own feelings, but there's got to be something to that. Chicken has been hot for the last 4 or 5 years too, of course, with all the chicken wars going on. Everybody's thinking a lot more about chicken. Chicken is the number 1 protein and growing in America. So chicken in general probably just really resonates. And there is a health halo, right? Even though it's fried chicken and not that healthy, young people probably still see it as healthier. But it's interesting. I mean, let's say, talking about Taco Bell, because I've been thinking a lot about Taco Bell lately, which you'll all find out more about soon enough, and I won't spoil the surprise. Some of the surprises we spoiled already. But anyway, I'm surprised that looking at this, Taco Bell hasn't been on this list since 2020, spring of 2020. And that is interesting to me, because Taco Bell puts in a lot of work toward doing what you're talking about, Holly, which is that, investing in these personalities, these influencers, these celebrities that are speaking directly to the teenager. I would have expected that them to be more prominent on the list, and especially to see like Taco Bell initially fell off the list because of Olive Garden. Like, no offense, Olive Garden, but teenagers in Olive Garden, are they going there for prom? Like, why do teenagers?
Like cool, like in a lot of towns, that's like the casual dining place to go.
Oh, sure.
Like,
hey,
to
grew
be
up
like,
in one.
yeah,
I get it.
Applebee's. Like, I went to Applebee's instead. I feel like going to Olive Garden is the same
like
kind of thing.
You went as a date night or before prom. That was at Applebee's in my hometown. Olive Garden, you had to drive like a half hour to get there. But yeah, I mean, yes, it was fancy. That was like the upscale. I just think it's interesting that they superseded Taco Bell, and then like Dunkin' shows up, and anyway.
Well, and I was thinking that the Starbucks thing, because, you know, teens aren't necessarily drinking coffee. And my thought was that maybe it's all in mall food courts, the Starbucks. Like the Starbucks by my parents is in a mall. So, and what do teenagers do? They get dropped off at the mall. They walk around for a few hours and they get picked up. And I feel like that could be why Starbucks is so high, because they're not really doing a lot of advertising. They're not really doing a lot. Like, it's not a brand that is looking to get more people in. They just know that they get the people no matter what.
And teenagers don't drink coffee, right? I didn't drink coffee as a teenager. Did you guys?
But absolutely, yes.
Weirdo.
I drinking coffee at like, I know I am weird though. I'm not going to try to tell you that's normal. I will say, and I don't know how like normal this is or whatever, but in my the town where I grew up and went to high school, there, not at the time, but there is now a Starbucks right across the street from the high school. And if you are stupid enough to drive that way in the morning on a school day, half of the cars are turning into the high school and the other half are going through Starbucks on their way to the high school. And I don't know how much of that is teachers, but I do know that if you go there, or even like during like the beginning or the end of the school day, if it's like first period and kids have off periods, like that place is overrun with teenagers. And that, of course, is a matter of location. Like, it's right there. And again, no one else in town is stupid enough to go to that Starbucks at that time of day because they know it's just overrun with teenagers. But if Starbucks, I think that store opened, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And if that was a strategy on Starbucks' part, if they're opening up across the street from high schools or certain high schools, like, I can absolutely see how Starbucks ended up on this list. And I mean, it's not like the whole thing of Starbucks is it's not just about coffee. So even if they're not drinking coffee, they're getting frappuccinos, or, you know, it's coffee, but like pumpkin spice drinks or snacks or whatever. Like, I can totally see why it's on the list.
You know what the smartest thing Starbucks maybe ever did was add cake pops to the menu? Because do you know?
Super expensive?
I don't know. I mean, my kids, thankfully, we've not introduced them to cake pops because it's one thing I don't want to have to deal with them like demanding to get. And look, no offense, Starbucks. We're not big Starbucks family over here, but my nephews, like my sister is constantly going through Starbucks drive-thru to get them cake pops. I was just picking up Jude from preschool yesterday, and the kid that came out the door in front of him ran to her mom, she said, and her mom was like, "You know what time it is?" And the girl goes, "Cake pop!" Like, and mind you, that's a 4-year-old, right? So like, that's smart stuff. And if we were to like, not to do your job for you, Holly, but like if we could bring this back into like some practical information, like wrap it up. But like the takeaway for all of this is like, you got to invest in these younger generations to turn them into longtime customers, right? So even that 4-year-old is going to have a relationship to Starbucks, so that by the time she does drink coffee, if and when she does, or even just like, you know, the sweeter, treatier drinks, starting to lose my handle on the English language because I said treatier. Anyway, you know, Starbucks will be a part of her consideration set in a way that I didn't have my first Starbucks experience until I was in college, right? And just with all the other, you know, demographics, the Gen Alpha, which is what my kids are a part of. Yep. And Gen Z, which I think is like 25 and under, you've got to establish that relationship with them now, because they will carry that into their adulthood and beyond.
I was also not a Starbucks user until college, so don't feel bad, Sam. I didn't like those drinks with the whipped cream on them. They kind of freaked me out.
How they freak you out?
And that's what a lot of people get. They get like all the whipped cream drinks. They're just like, I don't know what's in them. I don't like whipped cream. It just like, it makes me feel like just looking at them is unhealthy. So I just wasn't into it.
And they can be too
drinking
sweet.
Black coffee.
Leanne, this explains so much about you. I'll be honest with you.
I can't believe you didn't know this before, because I do feel it's like one of like 3 core facts that really like explains a lot.
When was your first cup of coffee? How old were you?
Oh my God. I was like 6 or 7. My grandmother gave me one, and my mom was just like, I guess this is it now.
Wow.
My parents don't drink coffee, but they had to start stocking it, like keeping it in the house for me.
This is so interesting. That's very unusual. But I would never give a 6-year-old.
I know it's
coffee.
unusual. Yeah, I don't know what was going on, or maybe it was one of those things where they're like, "We'll give it to her so she stops asking because she'll think it's gross." And I was just like, "Ooh, coffee," and loved it. And I have no idea why I was given a cup of coffee. I would not do it myself. And again, I'm not trying to say that I had a normal experience with coffee.
So bitterness on your palate must just be a lot different than most people's.
Yeah, I
'Cause
guess.
I never liked coffee. Even when I started drinking it, I started drinking it out of necessity.
True too,
I don't like it either. It's hot bean water. I don't like it. But Leigh, I'm the same age that you were when you started drinking coffee. It's the same age I was when I tried wine for the first time.
Which again explains so much.
Yep.
2 different sides of the coin, man. 2 different sides.
100%. All right.
Okay, so let's talk about, let's talk about the off-premises report, because I feel like we really touched a lot of those details in this last story with Chick-fil-A and how brands are doing. So Sam, can you give us a little synopsis of the off-premises report?
Certainly. So we were happy to partner with our new colleagues over at Technomic on the off-premises report. And, what we were trying to accomplish with that was to say, yes, you can measure very specific performance in the off-premises channels and on-premises channels too. But we wanted to broaden that. We wanted to sort of widen the scope of it a little bit and say, when you look at the omni-channel experience, the off-premises experience writ large, if you focused on, just one thing to understand who is best at it, you really have to get to how do customers feel? Do they like it or do they not like it? And that's consumer sentiment. And that's what Technomic provided for us, which again, if I were to use an example from my old days with my friends at QSR Magazine, when I was doing the drive-through study there, you could say a certain length of drive-through experience in seconds. You could say this is long or short, but it doesn't really get to the heart of the matter. And we always had that with Chick-fil-A, as I think, Holly, you mentioned earlier, early in, like a Chick-fil-A is always the longest drive-through experience, but that doesn't mean it's the worst or slowest. It just means there's a lot of cars in it, right? I bring up all that just to set the stage for those specific performance metrics don't tell the whole story. The whole story is better understood through how does the customer feel about their experience, because that determines whether or not they want to come back. So Technomic provided us this data on for a perspective of drive-through, carry-out, and delivery. And then we also had a chart for the overall performance, which was to take all of this into account and measure off-premises versus on-premises. And our leaders were determined by who had the highest customer sentiment in off-premises. Oh dear God, I almost reverted. Who had the best consumer sentiment in off-premises, and whose gap was widest between their consumer sentiment in off-premises versus on-premises. So in other words, who is acing off-premises even better than their on-premises? And this is, starting to say
a lot of premises.
A lot. I'm starting to say it a lot. So off-prem. And so the results were, on one hand, not surprising, and on the other hand, kind of surprising, because I think you saw some brands show up on these. For example, Dutch Bros. Dutch Bros is not only number one, I believe, in drive-through, but they're number one as far as in the overall category as well for quick service brands. And, this brand has surged out of nowhere, seemingly in the last 4 or 5 years, into being this dominant coffee brand. And they are a drive-through only concept. And so I think it's an interesting lesson to learn about drive-through, which is like, if you are intensely focused on drive-through, then customers are going to reward you with positive feelings towards your drive-through service and your off-premises service. And you can excel at that and win their loyalty. If you want drive-through coffee, Dutch Bros is the drive-through coffee place, right? But getting ahead of myself, we broke these down into QSR, fast casual, and full service for each category except for drive-through, because full service does not have drive-through. So that was QSR and fast casual alone. And again, if you really dig into some of these brands, Raising Cane's and Jersey Mike's show up for fast casual. Like, of course, these are top performing brands across the board. But like, what was the one that surprised me? Honey Ham Company, right? Like that totally surprised me. They were up for, hold on, wait for it. I'm going to go find, was it delivery? Do you remember this, Leanne?
I remember seeing it. Something else in delivery surprised me, but
hold on. I'm going to pull it up right now.
Preparation here, guys. Come on.
Yeah, I know. This is my
bad.
I
had them open, but there are so many pieces.
Okay, anyways, guys, go look for the report on our website. It's up. It's live. Please go search for it, because these two are having a hard time. So you can look for it.
It was the overall chart. They were number 2 for QSR, Honey Baked Ham. Who saw that coming? But I guess the point is that like, you might be surprised to see some of these companies, but don't be surprised that some of these companies really plant their flag in creating this great experience off premises, because that's where a lot of their customers choose to engage with them. And it shows you just the importance of the off premises channels in general, which is that like, it's a high bar, and some brands are so intensely focused on the serving food outside their doors that they are able to clear that bar and then some and create a memorable experience. I'm not doing it justice, clearly, but if you go to NRN.com and check out the report, you can really dig into some of the numbers and be surprised at some of the leaders we found that who is creating a great customer experience through their off-premises channels.
I just want to throw out one thing that surprised me, which is that in the delivery rankings, the top 2 QSR brands are Carvel and Cold Stone, which obviously both ice cream brands. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, those are 2 brands that do only ice cream and related products. And so they've taken this one thing that they do, and they have figured out how to do it really, really well. Our colleague Nora gets Carvel delivered all the time for our Instagram page. And like, it always looks great. It's always still frozen. So there's so much that can be learned from the brands on these lists. If you're a brand that does something else, but like you also serve ice cream, you can learn from these brands how to deliver ice cream well, because I think a lot of brands that do other things like haven't figured out that piece of the puzzle yet. So lots of interesting tidbits like that in different companies to be learned from here.
Yeah, Krispy Kreme was another one. Krispy Kreme shows up on the overall best overall off premises, and again, they do donuts. That's what they do. They do donuts drive-through. They do donuts delivery, carry out, and so the intense focus on the thing, I guess, is the lesson to learn here. If you can intensely focus on excelling in a specific channel or through a specific menu item, you will be rewarded for that.
Well, it's the same thing with Raising Cane's, which we've seen on both lists we were talking about today. And I feel like it's a sleeper brand. I feel like people are really are underestimating the power that Raising Cane's holds over both consumers who are Gen X, Millennial, but also Gen Z and Alpha. I think that Raising Cane's is going to be a real star in the next few years that we just need to look out for.
Well, numbers that we haven't even thrown around there yet. If you think about Chick-fil-A and Raising Cane's in particular for the chicken segment, I mean, Chick-fil-A, well known, is doing like 8 million plus per unit. Raising Cane's is doing, I think, 5 million plus. I mean, those numbers are really unheard of in the industry. You have a few. It's Chick-fil-A, Portillo's, Raising Cane's. From an average unit volume, people don't really come very close to that. And it goes to show, again, like the quality of the product they're offering, right? Like they own a very distinct role, I guess you could say, in their guests' hearts and minds. But just that intense focus on excellence. Again, with Raising Cane's, their menu is not very extensive. So they focus intensely on what they do serve. They serve it very well. Chick-fil-A, a little bit of a bigger menu. Portillo's, that's a whole other ballgame. And if you want to learn more about that, listen to my episode of Takeaway this week. Michael Osanlu, CEO of Portillo's. See how I just weaved that in? That little
It's all
shameless
interconnected.
plug.
Everything we do is interconnected, guys.
Yep, we've got an agenda. But Michael explains how Portillo's pulls it off. Portillo's has a huge menu. That's the opposite of a focused menu, But like they're still, people love them, and they make gobs and gobs of money.
Well, their cake shake is something out of this world. They put a whole slice of cake in their milkshake.
I mean, that's amazing. I'd be interested to know how much money they make on that one single item alone.
I bet it's famous in Chicago. That milkshake is famous. They
That's
also
where
make
those
Italian beef.
that's where those 8 million AUVs come from.
Yeah, they do 7.5 million in cake shakes and about 1 in their Italian beef.
So their Italian beef is delicious. And they make good French fries. I'm a big Portillo's fan, so I was excited that you interviewed him for takeaway.
And Michael's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about day parts. We kind of touched on it a little bit earlier about how breakfast is moving. It moved 3 years ago when the world stopped and people weren't going to the office anymore. People were working from home. They were getting maybe their second coffee out. It stayed there. We haven't seen it come back to regular levels. But also something that Alicia Kelso noted this week is that dinner time is moving up. So breakfast is moving back, but dinner is moving up. So that 8 o'clock reservation that used to be the prime reservation, now the reservation is 6 o'clock, which I think is really interesting to think about, that breakfast is later, but dinner is earlier. And all of our times have all just gotten shuffled up and moved around. And that a lot of the reason why Alicia was saying is because people aren't sticking around after work, or they're not going out after work to have that 8 p.m. reservation. People are going out, they're coming home from work and they're going out to eat. They're not leisurely strolling around wherever they work anymore, or meeting colleagues for drinks and then going out. So that's one of the reasons why it got so much earlier. I mean, Danny Meyer even tweeted about it, and that's kind of where she got the idea. So what do you guys think about the future of day parts?
When I say quiet, it's my invitation to Leanne to start, because I don't know when to stop.
I don't know where to start with this, because this is another case where Sam, I almost want your opinion as the average American, because I still eat dinner at 8 or 9 o'clock.
Thanks.
I don't know if, New York must be skewing if Danny Meyer is the one who started this conversation. So yeah, I think you're right. I think people are just, wrapping up at work and going to dinner and then going home, or maybe they've reversed their activities. They're eating before they go out now, which, well done, America. That's much healthier. But I don't have anecdotes or experiences from my own life to explain this, because I am a late dinner eater if I'm eating out. So.
Well, listen, Leanne, I'm allowed to call myself an average American, but you're not allowed to call me an average American. Just kidding.
Just did.
Yeah, whatever. I accept the mantle of average American. I think, yes, the pandemic did all this because the pandemic just threw all of us into different routines that we have not 100% come back from. Myself, working from home was weird in March of 2020, and I now work from home all the time. And as do you guys for the most part too. And that changed everything about my routine, because I no longer had this hard beginning and hard stop on my day. It used to be the very standard, drive into the office at 9 o'clock, drive home at 5 o'clock. Everything between those two times was work time. Everything, before and after those times was me time. And all of that has blended. And I think this is probably fairly standard across the board, that now that I work from home, not only have my meal times shifted, but everything has shifted. Now I do things like I go pick up the kids in the middle of the day, or, I do my laundry while I'm working. All the routine stuff has just gone topsy-turvy because I'm at home. And so I don't have the hard beginning and hard stop to my day like I used to. Now I maintain standard meal times, mostly because I have children who have to eat, and we eat with them at 6 a.m. and noon and 6 p.m. That's just our meal times. Of course, there's a lot of snacking that happens in between. But I do 100% understand how just the change in routine for consumers writ large has changed the nature of how they're visiting restaurants. And I think too, there's probably been more of a push toward communal dining in a way. We went through a year and a half or so of not being able to do that. And I think now that maybe just happens more often. Or, I mean, when I'm in New York with you guys, we'll all go out for, drinks and food and stuff, because it's just nice to be together in person. And we'll do that at 6 o'clock. We won't wait for 8 o'clock because, you go from the office to the restaurant. So I think all of that has changed it. I think the breakfast part's maybe most interesting to me just because I don't know why breakfast, has become brunch, other than maybe just brunch itself has become so popular, and particularly with younger people, and maybe brunch meetings, those kinds of things. But I'm a pretty firm, if I don't have food in my stomach by 6 a.m., I'm going to be miserable. I wake up at 5 a.m. though. So again, my routine maybe is a little bit different than yours. So yeah, I don't think we should be surprised by these numbers, mostly just because of the way that all of our lives and routines have changed.
Well, I think the breakfast segment is so interesting to me too, which is why I brought it up when I was talking to Alicia, because she focused more on dinner time. But the breakfast segment, we talk about breakfast being dead when Wendy's came out with their breakfast right before March of 2020, and then it bottomed. Everything was bad. And then we've seen in the past year and a half, 2 years, breakfast really surge back. Wendy's breakfast is huge now. Taco Bell's breakfast, which they killed, is huge now. And I think that it's an increase in users at a later time because people aren't waking up as early as they used to, except for Sam. Everybody is waking up later because they don't start in the office till 9, and they're taking a break in the morning and they're ordering their food.
I'm not the only person with children, right? Not everybody is waking up later. Have you met children? Do you know children?
I try not to.
What kind of question is that?
But people are moving even if they had breakfast at 6 a.m., there was a 10 a.m. spot for them to go get a coffee, to leave the house, because we're all trapped in the house all day because we're working from home and we have to be at our desks. And so people are doing a lot of things that are outside of the normal time zones. And I think that was breakfast coming back was what was so interesting to me, because we lost it for a long time. And now it's like the darling of Taco Bell and Wendy's. And now the late night day parts are coming back too. Like Jack in the Box is really big on the late night day part. So I think everything is coming back around, if it's maybe at different times.
Yeah, in general, I just don't think so much of the traditional way of doing things has been upended, especially by the pandemic. We were probably going into these directions anyway, but traditional meal times, traditional routines, the fact that digital tools allow us to live whatever life at whatever times we want, and restaurants fitting into that too, means that these things are shifting and will continue to do so. I think it's important to note that as younger people don't have kids, right? Like once upon a time with the traditional family structure, everybody fell into those same routines and it carried on and on. And as young people choose not to have kids, the traditional structure of things will continue to evolve. So I think this is not a blip. This is not a trend. This is a new reality, that all day parts will probably be relevant in some form or fashion, more so than the traditional day parts of yesteryear.
All right, well, guys, I think we had a wonderful discussion today. Everything kind of blended together, which was nice. I always like when that happens. So thank you guys for joining me. I'm going to throw it over to Alicia Kelso, who interviewed Clay Dover.
Thanks, Holly.
Thanks, Holly.
Hi, it's Alicia Kelso, Executive Editor at Nation's Restaurant News. I am at the Prosper Forum in Amelia Island, Florida, and I am now here with Clay Dover. He's the CEO of Velvet Taco, a brand that he has been with since 2017. Clay,
Yes.
thank you for
Thank you. I appreciate you letting me
joining.
talk.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you. I know that your industry experience runs much deeper than Velvet Taco. Walk me through that real quick.
I started as a busboy at Bob's Big Boy in California when I was 15 years old. Put myself through college waiting tables. Worked for Chili's as a restaurant manager and jumped onto the corporate side, and have been in a variety of marketing and executive roles. And it's the greatest industry in the world, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, what intrigued you to Velvet Taco?
Yeah, so at the time I was already in a role, and the founder, Randy DeWitt, called me and said, hey, I've got this 4-concept chain that we just sold to some private equity guys, and we're looking for someone to lead it. And I had actually visited Velvet Taco in Dallas, where the first one was, and had stayed late at night and stayed in a line to actually get the tacos. And so very rarely will I ever wait in a line to get food. And I remembered that experience. And so I flew out on a weekend and spent the entire weekend from open to close. And at that time, the Fort Worth restaurant closed at 4 a.m. So I was there all day, and I just stood and watched as there were lines of people clamoring to come and try the tacos at Velvet Taco, and I was hooked.
That was a selling point for you.
Yeah, I mean, when you got lines of people coming in, that's always helpful. And then just the brand is phenomenal. Obviously, I'm biased, but it's very rich in culture. The people that are there that have been part of the success have been just an amazing team to work with. And yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun.
Okay. 2017, 4 units.
Yes.
2023, 44. Correct.
Yes, correct.
So
correct.
That is
all company owned.
I mean, that's remarkable, especially given the past 3 years. Tell me what has driven a lot of that growth.
Yeah, so great. Number one, great food, great tacos. So our brand is a chef-forward taco concept. Everything is made in the restaurants. Our top-selling tacos include flavors from all over the world. We have Korean fried rice. We've got tikka marsala tacos. We've got several vegetarian dishes. And so it is not your typical taco joint, I guess I would say. And so our brand DNA is seeped in culinary excellence, a lot of fun, trendy foods. We do something called the WTF, which is the weekly taco feature. So every week, not month, not quarter, not season, every week we have a different taco. So we'll do everything from octopus tacos to a variety of all kinds of flavors, and allows us to be real fun and exploratory, and allows our restaurants to do things that no one else would.
It seems like that would build anticipation, like the crumble cookie of taco.
Somewhat, yes. Somewhat, although I think we were doing it first, so I'll take credit for that one.
Fair point.
No, it is. Every Wednesday we come out with a new one. It's only there for a week. Sometimes it's only while supplies last, but yeah, you never really know whether it's going to be a chicken parmesan taco or a pad thai. I mean, the beautiful thing about tacos is you can turn anything into a taco. So we take inspiration from all over the world.
Yeah, it's definitely a good canvas. Probably one of the reasons the category in general has seen a pretty staggering growth.
Has.
We at Nation's Restaurant News cover emerging brands,
Sure.
pretty closely, and that has really stood out, to me, especially in the past year or two. How are you positioned in a category that is growing like this, that we're talking about it? And then how will you, continue to maintain some kind of differentiation?
It's a great question. We've seen a lot of competitors coming into the space. I think that the challenge for all brands, not just tacos, but all brands, is the power of differentiation. When you think about your favorite restaurants or the ones that stand out, there's something special about it. Anyone can throw something into a tortilla and call it a taco, but when you've got flavors, you've got textures, you've got culture, you create an experience, all those things come together and it creates a brand experience in the restaurant. And so with Velvet Taco, what we've tried to do is take the high end of that, the high end of fast casual. You go up to the counter, you order your food, we'll call your name, but your food is made and curated just for you. So we've got the recipes that we think are the way that the taco should be made. It's a time-tested, recipe, I promise. But if someone says, "Hey, look, I don't like jalapenos. Can you pull those out?" We can. But everything with us, we do premium products. We have Kobe beef in our burgers. We get our paneer cheese from India. So we try to make sure that the experience that we have Maytag blue cheese from, whether it's Danish blue cheese. I mean, it's pretty serious quality products. I know it's a bit cliche, but we don't have any freezer, so everything's done fresh. So it might take 5-10 minutes to get your food, but we're going to make it fresh for you. We're going to grill it up and put it together and then call your name. That, I think, is a big differentiator for us. The international appeal to our brand and the cultural kind of inclusion of our tacos. So, if you've never had paneer, you can have paneer at our restaurant, which is actually really good if you haven't had it. The other thing also is that we do have alcohol. So we have margaritas. We have liquor licenses in our restaurant, so they're made with tequila. And we are also open very late. So we'll be the latest restaurant open in any of our neighborhoods. Some of our restaurants are open until 4 a.m. on the weekends.
Yeah.
And, there's nothing like a little extra tacos late at night after a night out on a Friday or Saturday night.
And there's nothing like a margarita, in my opinion.
That is true. We can do those too.
You touched on late night. Obviously, it's a big business for you. I kind of want to talk a little bit. I think what intrigues me is you came on board 3 years before the pandemic, and now we're 3 years after that sort of fulcrum.
Ooh, that's a great point. 3 and 3. It's like a middle point.
Yeah, tell me about some of the adjustments that you had to make during that time, and have any stuck around, I guess.
Sleeping 4 hours a night, that was something new during the time. I think thankfully for us and our brand, we try to look 5 years down the road. So I always have a 5-year plan. If you were to say, hey, Clay, we're going to be in 5 years, I could tell you. Now it's a plan. The plans always change. And at that time, heading into the pandemic, we were already in the transition plans of changing out our POS system, putting KDS screens in the back of the kitchen. We were re-engineering our to-go boxes. And so we had a lot of these things that we were putting in place already. When the pandemic hit, it just accelerated everything. Sure. And so thankfully we had, made the decision to make a POS change. We had put KDS screens up. We had gotten rid of paper tickets. Our to-go boxes, we were 30% to-go sales. We jumped to 70% to-go sales. Thankfully, we were ready. We had already done some training and laid it all out. Those things mostly have stayed. We're now about 50% takeout. So it's still a big part of our business. That stuck around. I think some of the efficiencies that we learned during the pandemic, we continued to work through, whether it's prep procedures or, continually focusing on, we sold margaritas to go. Yeah. Hey, what do you know? Thank you to the Texas Restaurant Association and Governor Abbott for letting us in the state of Texas do margaritas to go and elsewhere across the country. But, that really helped during that time frame. And we continue to do that today.
Yeah. I think that was my favorite thing that came out.
Everybody loved the margaritas to go.
Still taking advantage of that.
Yes.
You said to go is 50%. Is that all off premises, including delivery?
Yeah. So of that, about 30% or so is third-party delivery, and that includes catering. But yeah, we have all digital channels open. We also have our own digital channel open where we have our own mobile app. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's 51% to be exact of our business goes out the door one way or the other. Okay. We also have been rolling out what we call taco lanes, where you would roll up. You can either pre-order your tacos ahead of time and on our mobile app. So when you roll up, we'll actually tell you when your food is ready. We'll say, Steve, your tacos are ready. You drive up, you say, my name is Steve, we hand you your tacos, you drive through. Our time at the window is actually 27 seconds. So it's very fast, very efficient, and it's another way in which you can get your tacos.
Are you seeing, the taco lane is interesting because we're seeing that start to proliferate more.
Yep.
What are some of the results that you're seeing from the taco lane specifically?
Yeah, great question. We're seeing an increase of sales of around 10 to 15% where we've retro and put those in. So it's definitely a incremental group. I think the biggest thing, and you mentioned it before, was, what are you seeing? Efficiency. It's one of the things I would say to all of your millions of listeners that are listening to this. It's our job to get, for our case, Velvet Taco in the hands of consumers whatever is the best way for them. If you make it difficult for consumers or, I've got kids and I don't want to have to park my car and come into the restaurant to pick up my food, or boy, I can't find your app, or I got to go on this website and then I got to enter my credit card. Seamless transactions, touchless transactions, online ordering, any way that we can get you your food, we want to do it. And that's something that we've learned during the pandemic, and I think will continue to accelerate post-pandemic.
Sure. Okay. Earlier, when I was making you go through your resume a little bit, you mentioned you're a marketing guy by trade. That is
way back
not
when.
Surprising.
Don't hold it against me.
Yeah, well, no, that's not surprising to anybody who covers Velvet Taco. And we get, a great PR team that you've got in place, keeping us posted on all your news. Some of the stuff is a lot of fun. Your Chat GPT taco.
Yes, the Chat GPT taco.
Talk to me about sort of your approach here. To have these sort of headline grabbing things that I'm not seeing anywhere else, really.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, look, uh, the restaurant industry is fun. Velvet Taco is fun. It's about an experience, and so what you want to do with your brand is incorporate all aspects, not just the actual tacos themselves, which they have to be great, but also the experience. And when you take things that are relevant, are topics of today, and you can utilize those and leverage them. You mentioned the ChatGPT taco. So it was actually our chef who brought it to us and said, hey, this ChatGPT, like it's on my phone, and I downloaded all of the ingredients into that are in our restaurants and said, make us the perfect taco. And here's what it spit out. And I was kind of like, well, that's pretty interesting. Like, how are we going to use, this kind of technology to move us forward? And here I have a chef that's using it not to take the place of a chef, but to help come up with ideation. And so we came up with this, the computer, ChatGPT, came up with the taco, and it spit it out, and we then marketed it. It became our WTF for the week. It was our best-selling WTF, grabbed a lot of headlines, news stations picked it up. It was a surf and turf with shrimp and flank steak. I mean, it was a great taco, but it showed us a different way of looking at things. And so I think from a brand standpoint, we are storytellers. The restaurant industry is an amazing place in which you can tell your brand story, regardless of what it is. It's more than just a simple transaction where you get food and you get filled up. When people think about restaurants, it's the fabric of America. It's where you went for your birthday. It's when friends come to town. Here's where we went. Let's go get drinks together here. It is now just a commonplace thing to incorporate restaurants into your daily life. And so for us and for all brands, not just Velvet Taco, I think the exciting thing is what does the brand say? What is your brand voice? And then people understand what you're about. They go, okay, it's an exploratory, fun thing. You're having fun with headlines. You're having fun with tacos, ideas. I'm going to come in for an experience. This isn't going to be like something else that I can get somewhere else. That's part of, you talked about positioning before. We want to create a culinary experience. We had a grasshopper taco for WTF. It didn't sell that great, but we had freeze-dried grasshoppers in the taco. And you know what? It was pretty interesting. And it was different, and people were able to say that. For Mardi Gras timeframe, we've done fried alligator. To be able to go back to the office after going out to lunch and say, guess what I had? I had an alligator taco today. You just can't do that everywhere. And so I think the differentiation for the brand is something that you have to really lean into. Whatever that is for your brand or for whatever that is for your restaurant company, accentuate it, talk about it, have fun with it.
Yep, sure. Any chance on bringing in those WTFs permanent, like the
Yeah.
ChatGPT, for example?
Yeah. So the beautiful thing with that whole WTF, it is a stage gate process for us. So we actually have over 300 recipes of tacos that we've done, and we know exactly how well they sold. We know exactly what they took away from. We know the costs. We know consumer feedback. So at the end of every WTF, we do three things. Number one, we do an analysis after the fact and look at sales and, did we have enough product? Would we order more, et cetera? Secondly, we talk to our operators, which is the most important thing. We talk to the operators and say, how well was it to execute? Was it easy? Was it hard? Was there extra steps? Was there less extra steps? And then the third thing is we gather guest feedback. So through our technology, going back once again to tech, we're able to reach out to those guests that actually ordered the taco, get their ratings. Would you come back? Would you order? Would you recommend it to a friend? And now we've got this database. So several of our tacos that are on our core menu, chicken and waffle, for example. It's a phenomenal taco for us. It's been on the menu for a couple of years now. It started out as a WTF. And so it actually allows us the opportunity with real guests to see how well a taco is going to do. And sometimes they don't. Let's just say there's not a cricket taco on the menu nowadays, but it was a lot of fun. It was one of my favorite WTFs.
I bet. You're in the breakfast space.
The breakfast space.
Tell me about that comeback story, which I don't want to make the assumption it's a comeback story, but industry-wide it is. So,
Oh, definitely.
and what that mix is for for you?
Yeah, so today it's very small. For the industry, breakfast is a growing area. You talk about competitive space, whether you're First Watch or one of the other breakfast chains, they are growing like crazy, super successful. Our population is we have some baby boomers that have time to go to brunch every day. Bringing breakfast and brunch items in at the workplace is a huge opportunity for us. We have 3 day parts. We have lunch, dinner, and late night. But we do have crews in our restaurant. We have teammates and tribe members that are there already working. So we are testing some breakfast tacos. They're great tacos that our chef E has put together. Very velvet taco-ish. So very unique in items. And we have them available to be able to be ordered via online or through third party. We think there's some brands out there that do a pretty decent job with breakfast that we might be able to take some cues from.
Okay, very good. That'd be 4 day parts.
Yeah.
Just so I'm not good at math, but I'm counting in my head. Okay, if this breakfast sticks, that requires labor.
Yep.
And that plays into the challenges that we've been writing about and you've been dealing with for the past several years. Where are we in terms of those challenges?
Yeah.
Including and especially labor.
They are very real. The labor challenge is real within our industry. I think that the trick for restaurants is to create an environment and a culture in which people want to work. They want to be successful. They want to succeed. It's going to be tricky as we continue to grow and find great people that can execute our menu at Velvet Taco. It's not an easy thing. The prep we do and the products that we create are challenging. It's not cutting open a bag and heating something up. I mean, we are brining meats. We are grilling items and prep. We're making our salsas fresh. And so I think the challenge that we've got is create an ambiance and an atmosphere at every single restaurant where people feel empowered. I also think that we have what we call a path to progression. You can start as a prep person for us or an hourly prep team member and work your way up to become anything, really. Sure. I think some of the best things that I've seen that give me goosebumps even just saying this is we've got managers that I remember being prep cooks. Sure. And they are running multi-million-dollar restaurants for us right now. And I'm proud of that. Yeah. To be able to create that environment and that opportunity, that's what we're all challenged with in this industry.
Well, and that's a good segue, if you will. We're at the Prosper Forum.
Yes.
There's intentionality behind this event. Why is it important for you and Velvet Taco to be here?
Yeah, no, I think it is very important in providing opportunities for everyone, whether it's age, race, color, creed, whatever it is. This is the one industry that I think someone can start at the very entry level and work their way up to become a CEO, to become a vice president, to become whatever they want to be, to start their own restaurants. You can learn on the job. You can work hand in hand with someone. You can create your own destiny. And it's important for us to make sure that we, as leaders within the industry, provide those opportunities. And that's what the Prosper Forum's all about. It's been a phenomenal event. Hearing the stories and seeing some of the leaders and talking about where they came from and some of the programs that are in place are inspirational for us. I mean, we're still a small restaurant company. We're 44 restaurants. I aspire to have some of the things that the larger restaurants have and to create opportunities for everyone within our organization, regardless of their backgrounds, their beliefs, their colors, their ages, or where they came from. This is the place that we can do that. I'm excited to be part of it.
Great. 44 units.
We call them restaurants, but yes.
Sorry, I'm getting too technical here with my industry speak. Do you have target? There's a lot of white space here.
There is a lot of white space.
Especially in a growing category, as we've mentioned. So tell me, as you're comfortable, what your target domestically is. And then is there a conversation to be had about international? Am I getting too far ahead?
No. Look, I told you before that we think 5 years in advance. You have to have those kinds of plans. Our goal is to become a national brand, to be known from coast to coast. So is that some magical number? I mean, sure. We're going to open up 12 restaurants this year. We've grown from 4 to 44 over the last 6, so that's a pretty aggressive growth rate. We want to open up great restaurants one at a time. Sometimes that's difficult. I won't say that every site has been a home run that we've said, boy, this thing is just blowing up. But we've got great restaurants. We have great people. Our goal is to continue to grow in new markets. So we're going to Miami. We'll open our first restaurant in Florida and Fort Lauderdale in a week and a half, and then we're going to Miami after that. We have a couple other states that we've got eyes on. We hear up in the Northeast that people like tacos. Louisville, Kentucky, I heard is a great.
I was like, we like tacos and margaritas in Louisville, Kentucky. I guarantee
especially
that.
on the margaritas there. No, I mean, look, there are tons of opportunities. We're in 6 states, and our goal is to maintain a presence where, whether it's through non-traditional opportunities, we think that there's opportunities in airports. We're opening a casino with our partners in Choctaw Nation, which I'm excited about.
Will that be your first casino?
That'll be our first casino, and we have a Houston Hobby Airport location that we're going to do. That'll be our first airport location. Great. So, there's a great opportunity to build our brand in areas that, they just don't know who we are. They haven't seen anything like us before. They've never had a chicken tikka taco. They've never had a kick-ass margarita. Am I allowed to say that? Sorry. That's what it's called. It says that. That's what we call them. Because it's
we don't censor anybody here.
All right, good. Well, they're kick-ass margaritas because they kick ass. And then from a growth beyond that, yeah, I believe that our menu, our tacos, will go beyond our borders. I believe that we have a worldwide brand. We want the right partner. It's not just going to be anyone, but we've had some early conversations with some folks. We think that the right partner who can execute our vision would be great to partner with and to go international. So yeah, I do believe that there will be international velvet tacos in the not distant future, maybe not the near future, but it's going to take a little bit. But we're definitely interested in opening. So if there's listeners, please give us a call.
Well, final question then, and again, another segue. Thank you. You're helping me do my job.
Sure.
What can we look forward to in the near term? I know you said you have a 5-year plan.
Yeah.
But what are we going to be paying attention to, focused on hearing from you next year, even the end of this year and into next year? Q4.
Yeah. Wow. No, I think for us, our goal is to focus on our people. We all are nothing. Look, there's no cash registers in my office. My job is to set the vision. We've got a great COO, Michael, who leads our operations teams. We've got great operational leaders, both regionally and at every restaurant. We have to develop our people to become those next great leaders. If we're going to continue to grow at the rate that we're growing, we have to invest in our people. We have to invest in the systems. We have to invest in the programs. I want our team members, our tribe members at the restaurant level to know that there's an opportunity to grow with us. I want that trainer who's traveling from Dallas, Texas, out to Florida to open a restaurant for us to know he or she could have a management job. He or she could run their own restaurant. And it is a good career. It's a hard career sometimes. It's a lot of hard work, but those opportunities are there. So I think from us, you'll continue to hear us grow. We'll continue to grow. We've got lots of sites planned out. But I think it's about making sure that we do it the right way with the right people. And so I think you'll hear that not just from Velvet Taco, from a lot of folks. The labor challenge is real. We need to make sure that we prepare our people to be our brand ambassadors for Velvet Taco across the U.S.
I trust you'll keep us posted.
Of course, always.
Right.
I will always be happy to keep you posted.
It's been fun to watch, fun to follow, fun
Thank
to cover,
you.
and I anticipate, staying up on all this. Congrats.
Of course.
Thanks
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, Clay.
Thank you so much. Appreciate all the work that you guys do and the support that you give our industry.